Hi, my name is Felicia Liebler. I'm a social studies teacher at Brookfield High School, and next year I'll be starting my 15th year. I'm enjoying my summer at home with my family and kids, and a good friend, Kelly Hopkin Alvarez, asked that I would try to share some of my thoughts on good teaching or compassionate teaching with you. So I've tried to organize my ideas around 10 basic talk points that I could share with you and also use for myself, because this is something I like to do at the end of a school year as I get ready for the next year. I think the most important thing for any human or teacher or person to understand is what their limits are. You need to set limits for yourself. How much time you're going to spend sleeping, how much time you're going to spend with your family, or cleaning your house, or doing your schoolwork, or grading your papers. You need to kind of look at your day or your week. I kind of look at my day and figure out how much time I'm going to spend doing which thing and how far I'm willing to go. It would seem unhealthy to me. You're going to get up at 5 in the morning and work all day, come home, have dinner, spend some time with your kids, and work till 11 or 12 at night. That just doesn't seem like a balanced person. That doesn't seem like somebody that's going to be healthy. Doesn't seem like you're going to be treating yourself very well. So I've learned over time, as best I can, to try to set some realistic limits and goals for what I think I can attain and how I'm going to attain it. And if I find that those limits are getting off balance, then I quickly kind of stop and reevaluate what I'm doing and reflect and set some new limits. Bullet point 2 I kind of borrowed from my department chair, but he always said you should work smarter, not harder. And so for what this means, when you look at what you're doing, what's your objective? What are you hoping to come out of it? Is there a better way to do it? Are you doing all the work, or are your students doing the work? Because if they're not doing the work, then they're not going to learn. So I always find that if there's ways that, if I'm doing it for them, that may not be the best possible option. If we're doing a writing activity, I have them go back and peer edit and have them underline their thesis and look for things that are missing. The other thing I do with Work Smarter, Not Harder is surround yourself with a group of positive people. In your building, there will be people that are very upbeat, and you might have a few that are not. Try to stay clear of them. Stick with people that are upbeat because they have great ideas. And if you could get yourself in a situation where at lunch or casual time, formally or informally, you could share your best practices, then that's going to make your job better, and that's going to make your students perform better. So work smarter, not harder. In teaching, I also try to fall back on rule number 3, the golden rule. It sounds so simple, but to just treat others the way you want to be treated. I find that I think I'm a better teacher now that I have kids that are school age, and the expectations or the things that I'd want those teachers to do for my kids are kind of, the things that I'll do for my own students. And I look back at my own education experience, and I don't really remember much about what I learned in terms of content, but I remember the teacher that taught me life lessons that were nice to me, and that was the support you needed. I mean, growing up isn't easy, and if you're doing it right, making mistakes and learning from them, you need all the support you can get. So having people treat you well is a good thing. So the golden rule would be bullet point number 3 that I really try to stick to in my teaching career. The 4th rule that I try to remember, and I do have to try to remember this, is that the kids are not the enemy. And I'm almost embarrassed to say that, but my first year of teaching, I really felt like it was me versus the students, and that's not the case at all. It's all of us working together. So that includes parents, that includes administrators, guidance counselors. I like to believe that everybody is out to help the student. And if a student's acting up, then it's probably not because they're trying to, get me. It's probably because there's something else going on. So it's kind of a good idea to get to know your students and talk to each one of them every day and get a pulse on what they like and what's going on. So if you notice that they're acting up, there could be another reason, and maybe you could talk with them to see if there's anything you could do to help them through it. And ultimately, they're going to be appreciative, I think, for the attention, or that you even noticed, or that you're not trying to jam some content down their throat, that you're treating them as people first and foremost. So they're not the enemy, treat people well. I also like to try to vary my communication style. So ultimately, I think for most teachers, you default to communicating to the group or small group. And I find that especially when I'm dealing with challenging students or students that are really rising above the call, to try to vary that a little bit. So I am a big proponent of pulling a kid out into the hallway and telling them they did a great job, or telling them that I need their help with something, or telling them that I think that they could do something. And I find that this method sometimes works because a kid might be more apt to talk to you, one-on-one than they would in front of their peers. I let students know right at the beginning of the year that I will be pulling kids out in the hall, and it's not because they're in trouble, but because I wanted to share something with them. So when that does happen, I don't want to startle a kid, but I find varying communication styles will sometimes help a student to either know that I noticed or need them or care about them, or I'm trying to get them to work for themselves in some way. That's something I try to remember to use in the classroom and not always default to addressing the group as a whole. Helping students to become empowered is also really important. I've noticed a shift from when I was in school to when students are in school now, that the process is really important. And so empowering kids is really a valuable thing to do. And I try to remember that it's not the end result that matters. I have to remind myself it's the process. So giving them jobs, asking them in the middle of a project, is this working? What's working? What's not working? Even giving kids jobs like turning on the lights or passing out papers, or I need someone to play the devil's advocate. But giving as many kids as possible jobs and roles helps them to feel valued. And it also takes a little bit off me. Like if I'm a one-woman show, then I'm not going to be as efficient as if I'm giving kids jobs to kind of help out. So it's good for my own mental health, but it's also really good for kids to know that they're needed and they're valued and that they make a difference. So empowering kids is something that I try to keep in mind as much as possible. Something that I try to make time for, although it's tough, but I think it's important, is to, when possible, go the extra mile for a student or a colleague or a parent. It might take a second to send out an email, or a minute to say, your kid did really well today in class, or you did really well today in class, and here's why. But it could make all the difference for that one individual, and it maybe only took a minute out of my time. I like doing those things, and sometimes I find myself doing that instead of grading a stack of papers that are in front of me, but I think those are the things that really matter. People may not remember the assignment I'm about to pass back, and they will get it, but they will remember that a teacher pointed out, hey, I did a really good delivery on my presentation, and so the next time I do a presentation, I'm going to feel a little bit better about it. So go the extra mile. I know I like it when teachers go the extra mile for my kids. It's the most important thing, and I try to do that, when possible. The next one is, it probably seems pretty obvious, but I need to be reminded to do it. And my department chair and I work closely together, and he says it's such a simple thing, but we have to remember to do it, which is express your standards clearly. Tell kids what you want them to do. Tell them what you're going to be doing. Tell them why you're doing it and why they're doing it. But when you express clear standards, like, we're going to the library, I want to see you, find a book, take notes on the book, and sit quietly and read and show me your notes, like very, very clear behavioral and academic standards, it's easier for the kids to follow. And kind of observe, if you notice somebody's not doing something, maybe they didn't get the direction the first time, maybe they need help. But I find setting very clear standards for what's about to happen or what's going to happen if they don't do it might be really helpful to kids, and it might be more apt to get students to do what they're supposed to do in class. Something else that's pretty important is just to monitor student progress. And a lot of you are probably saying, yeah, that makes sense, and I do that, and I think there's a good reason for it. Why do we monitor student progress? Well, because if there's an issue, you might be able to catch it early on. And also you might need to adjust something. Like, often I find I make mistakes and kids will catch it, or I'll tell them to go to a website that's been since shut down. So I think it's very valuable to monitor student progress. You might need to adjust something. A kid might find a way of doing something that you didn't think of, and that might be like the standard or the model that you use for other kids. But I think it's really important to monitor, and if an issue does come up, you could say to a kid, well, what are you doing? What do you think you should be doing? Or how might you think of another way to get around this? Or ask other kids to get involved in helping. But monitoring and adjusting is really important if you're going to focus on the process and empowering kids so that they learn their own lessons. Last but not least, probably the most important thing that I've learned early on in my career is to be reflective, and to let kids be reflective and to be reflective with colleagues. But whether it's, at the end of a lesson or a school day or, a unit or a year, it's really good to kind of look at what worked, what didn't work, why it might not have worked, get kids involved in the process. They often have a lot of insight. Like I said, I learn more from them, and I can gain so much insight from them. Why would you not use that as a resource? But I think in order to really be good at your profession or to help kids, it's good to teach them that it's okay to make mistakes and reflect on them and try to do a little bit better the next time. That is a really big thread that I think I could weave throughout not only teaching but my life. That's been really, really valuable. I just want to use this as an opportunity to thank you for your time. What you just saw me do on video is something that I do at the end of each year anyway. I always want to know how I can repeat certain successes and oftentimes change a lot of things. And I think it's a good, healthy practice to get into. I know that I have a certain degree of compassion towards my students, towards my colleagues and family. And after talking to Kelly and learning a little bit about self-compassion, I think that's the next logical step. If you could be really good at taking care of yourself, then you're going to be not only happier, but you're going to be able to help people in a better way. And I think that's important. I don't think any of us have giant S's on our shirt and are going to be able to do everything. That's impossible. And perfection, I don't really believe exists. But I think if we can strive to do our best and be kind to ourselves, that, oh, look, we did this well today. I think that's a really good way to look at things. I hope that nothing that I said came across as preachy to you. These are just some things that I know that I'm going to try to implement next year, next August, when I start out with a new batch of students. If you ever have any thoughts or questions or you wish to collaborate with me, I welcome the opportunity. I'll make sure that Kelly shares my email address with you or even my phone number. But I always find that talking to others tends to help me look at my own process and improve upon it in little ways. So thank you for your time, and I wish you the best of luck and hope that you continue to enjoy your summer, and take care.